Hello, this is Matt on the Moon Lambo channel. Petulant child and co-founder of Ethereum, Vitalik Buterin, took to the webernets to say a stupid thing last night for which he has no shame. Seemingly out of nowhere, he decided to attack XRP, sharing his irrational thoughts with his 4.2 million followers on Twitter. So I'm going to share with you my thoughts as well as the perspective of attorney John Deaton, because you know he's got some stuff to say about this. Well, in particular, because he has publicly stated if the SEC had gone after Ethereum instead of XRP, he'd have a bunch of ETH holders following him instead of XRP holders. He's publicly stated that, and I believe him. I certainly take him at his word, and that would be the right thing to do, because he's acting based on what is legally and ethically the right thing to do. That's what he's talking about, most certainly here. But and I'll share you the exact quote in just a minute or two here. But Vitalik Buterin, he did state that XRP has already lost their right to protection. That's what he stated here. Also got comments from David Schwartz, who of course is Ripple's CTO and co-creator of the XRP ledger, as well as a couple comments from the official library account on Twitter, which of course is also being sued by the SEC. So turns out Vitalik Buterin's got a bit of an axe to grind. And it's unfortunate because, he actually, as far as I recall anyway, the story I've heard, is that he basically got the idea for Ethereum from visiting Ripple. And he was like sleeping on Stefan, what's his name? Stefan Thomas's, I believe, the original Ripple CTO's couch. He was sleeping on his couch for like a 2-week period back in, I think, 2013. And this is back when even Ripple was trying to decide which route to go. Like, should we try and find a way to go the smart contract route? Could we do something else? And they ended up, what they ended up doing, obviously. And now they're going for the Internet of Value, positioning XRP as a bridge currency. But then Ethereum took that information. I've always said more power to him. He took something, Ripple didn't run with that, and that's fine. And he ended up getting some people together, and he's a co-founder of Ethereum. And he was pro XRP until suddenly he wasn't at the end of December 2020. But before I cover this any further, I do want to be clear, I do not have a financial background of any kind. I am not offering financial advice, and you definitely should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. I'm just an enthusiast who enjoys making YouTube videos about crypto-related topics, but just as a hobby and just for fun. Now, I remember in the earlier years, at least when I was in crypto, which I jumped in late 2017, I remember seeing positive tweets about Ripple and XRP from Vitalik Buterin. But then at the time that the SEC was suing Ripple, things got a little uncomfortable. Take a look at this tweet from December 21st, 2020 from Vitalik Buterin. He wrote the following. Looks like the Ripple/XRP team is sinking to new levels of strangeness. They're claiming that their S-word coin should not be called a security for public policy reasons, namely because Bitcoin and Ethereum are Chinese controlled. And he's got 2 laugh emojis. Except for that's not quite what they said. What they actually said is in the screen grab that Ripple shared. So this is from Ripple. And reads as follows. It's a factual background. XRP is a fully functional currency that offers a better alternative to Bitcoin. XRP is a widely adopted digital asset based on an open source blockchain technology with an extremely robust, fully functioning currency market. XRP consistently ranks among the top 3 virtual currencies by market capitalization, alongside Bitcoin and Ether, the 2 Chinese-controlled virtual currencies that the SEC has stated are not securities. Now, of course, we know at this point there's no technical decree, but the argument being made at the time, it was still the Bill Hinman Ethereum Free Pass speech. It was still market guidance. Come on, obviously. Even the SEC finally ceded that point this year. They said, okay, Bill Hinman, it's just his personal opinion and the opinion of the division that he was directing, but it was market guidance. So even they ceded that point. So we can mince words and split hairs here. But the point being here, what kind of grinded his gears, if Vitalik Buterin's, is the statement that Bitcoin and Ether are Chinese-controlled virtual currencies that the SEC has stated are not securities. Well, I'm not as well informed in terms of what mining pools or miners are in charge of what percentage of the hashing power for Ethereum the world over. I don't pretend to be, but for Bitcoin, I do remember back in the day, just a couple years back, and I know it's not the case now because Bitcoin miners have been shut out of China at this point, but it was the case certainly back in the day that in terms of control, they wrote that the Bitcoin and Ether are under Chinese control. Well, they didn't say Chinese government control. They just said that there was a concentration of power. So with Bitcoin, there was over 51% hashing power just in the last few years, over 51% in one country. And so there was always the theory, and I don't know that this was likely, but in theory, and this is a concern, and it was reasonable to talk, at least to speculate about. I wasn't convinced it was ever going to happen, but perfectly reasonable to bring up as an actual concern that Chinese government could have just, being the CCP that they are, they come in and just take over all the miners, and bam, you got control of Bitcoin. That's a concern. Now, they couldn't have done that with the XRP ledger, obviously, but they could have with Bitcoin. But really, the assertion that we're talking about is that it's in Chinese control. That's a factual statement. So you can get into the nitty-gritty in terms of what the implications of that were, would it actually matter? But certainly in terms of Bitcoin, and again, I can't speak for Ether, but I don't think Ripple would lie about this, but certainly in terms of Bitcoin, it was literally true. So again, you could argue about the implications, but I'm just a matter-of-fact statement. Yes, it's absolutely true that it's Chinese controlled, even if it's just citizens running businesses in China. There you go. It's just a factual statement. And then here's a second screen grab from Vitalik Buterin from Ripple, which reads as follows. Policy reasons counsel against finding XRP to be an investment contract. Innovation in the cryptocurrency industry will be fully ceded to China. The Bitcoin and Ethereum blockchains are highly susceptible to Chinese control because both are subject to simple majority rule, whereas the XRP ledger prevents comparable centralization. So, I mean, if you're talking about where all the innovation is, you can talk about, again, everybody's going to have different opinions on what the actual risks are, but in terms of the idea, like, they're not saying something that's flagrantly false or something like that, And not everybody agrees. Like, even Attorney John Deaton, he publicly stated, I'll pull up his comments here, but even he's not really sold on this. I mean, I don't have like a fiercely strong opinion on this, but all I'm stating is basically like, Ripple wasn't lying here. That's basically what I'm getting at here. But so then you get to what's happening today. This is so ridiculous. I don't need to get into all the specifics of what led to this. It's on your screen if you want to read some of this here. But in a nutshell, there were concerns about regulation within Canada, and that prompted some tweets. A couple of them are on your screen from Vitalik Buterin and this other guy named David Hoffman, who I'm not familiar with, but he founded a Bankless HQ, whatever the app Bankless HQ. I'm not familiar. It doesn't matter. But then David Hoffman wrote to Vitalik Buterin and said, if they had restricted XRP, I wouldn't have said anything. So but what happened is, again, the Canada regulation, the Canadian regulation, he was detesting it because there are limits in terms of what you could purchase in Canada. But he said if it had just applied to XRP, he wouldn't have said anything. And why? Because of reasons. See, this is the tribal nature of crypto. Don't you just absolutely despise it? Because I do. Really, really burns my biscuits. Well, Vitalik actually responded to that and wrote the following. XRP already lost their right to protection when they tried to throw us under the bus as China-controlled, in my opinion. And so that's what he tweeted last night. And that kind of lit crypto Twitter on fire. Certainly got the XRP community going. For good reason, I think it's safe to say. And it's funny, you can see this, like, here's an example of a positive tweet. You don't need the context. I'm just pointing out the positive nature of this. This is from February 23rd of 2019. Vitalik Buterin wrote, I think you want to use XRP. The chart for XRP/XRP would look the same, so it's also sound money, but they have institutional adoption and partnerships, so they're better. Well, there you go. So he was all happy and gung-ho until one developer building on top of the XRP ledger said something that made him feel butthurt. That's basically what happened here. And so I responded to him because, again, mind you, he wrote, XRP already lost their right to protection. So I quoted him on that, and then I said, what does this mean? XRP is not a sentient being. It's not a sentient being. It's computer code. How can computer code lose a right to anything? And so obviously, what he's doing is conflating Ripple and XRP. He knows better than this, though. He's doing it because he doesn't care, and he doesn't care that other people put real money into XRP. He doesn't care that there are real developers that have careers outside of Ripple building on top of the XRP ledger. None of this matters. XRP lost its right. Oh, okay, because reasons. Got it. You're making a ton of sense here. Panos wrote back, and I liked his response, and I'm a fan. He writes all sorts of really interesting blogs. He seems to be rather insightful. And here's what he said in response to that just this morning. He said, And who are you to dictate that? I imagine talking to a decentralized technology and asset like a dictator and confusing it with a private company that just happens to use that technology. I thought you would be smarter than that. Yeah, me too. Of course, he could very well maybe just intentionally conflating. But that's the point. Like, that's the reason I write what I write, because it points out how stupid it is to conflate the two. Just knock it off. And then Attorney John Deaton on this, he said the following. You would think someone who belongs on Mount Rushmore of crypto would understand that XRP is software code. Vitalik, are you saying the 72,000 XRP holders I represent don't deserve to be protected? These holders have nothing to do with Ripple or Brad Garlinghouse. Shame on you. Golf clap before I read further. Absolutely very happy to see him call, as he should be. This is not the right approach. And then John Deaton says, if you are a true leader, you will clarify that you do not mean innocent holders of XRP who have nothing to do with Ripple. Remember that article you wrote for Bitcoin Magazine? Recall the positive things you said about XRP in the past? Maybe someone bought XRP listening to you. For the record, when Ripple made the comments about Bitcoin and ETH being Chinese-controlled technologies, I was critical and disagreed. I said that I understood that they were fighting for their very existence, and the SEC's selective enforcement was outrageous, but we must unite. And that's perfectly fine. Everybody can disagree. So I feel slightly different than John Deaton on that. Maybe you side with John Deaton. Maybe you think that I'm a little bit closer to right. It doesn't matter. I value diversity of thought. What's at the core of this, rather, is Vitalik Buterin tweeting out to 4.2 million people nonsense about XRP. It's not good for the space. It's not healthy. It's not fostering a healthy environment in an already tribal world of crypto. That's the problem. And he thinks that the SEC is not going to come after them. I'm not so convinced. I don't know if they will, but if things don't go well for XRP holders, he should be concerned. And then there was also another comment from Attorney John Deaton. He said, I brought up things like Vitalik getting the exchanges to halt trading, but always said he had good intentions. Vitalik, should I send you emails of people financially devastated by SEC's overreach? People who have never heard of Ripple have had their XRP and life savings frozen. Well, excellent point. Obviously, Vitalik doesn't seem to care. And by the way, what he's referencing here, because again, he said, Attorney John Deaton pointed out, Vitalik was responsible for getting exchanges to halt trading of ETH. But John Deaton says, hey, well, I thought he had good intentions, and that's fine. That's fine. There's a thread here. I'm not going to read the whole screen, but it's on your I'm not going to read the whole thing, but it's on your screen, rather. But I'll highlight this part right here. One of the points made, and this is from June 17th, 2016, mind you, from a person going by the name of InfoDroid, said, the fact that one man can bring the whole of Ethereum trading to a halt with an announcement really demonstrates just how much power he has. So it doesn't matter that he doesn't have a physical kill switch if the end result is the same. And so that's ultimately what happened. He just put out a statement of what his preference is, and then they followed suit. Interesting, is it not? And then there was this from Attorney Jeremy Hogan. He simply wrote, and I thought this is funny, so I'm sharing it. Am I getting old, or is Vitalik too young to be a mafia don? Well, considering the control he seems to have, especially back in 2016, a little alarming, is it not? I think fair to say. And then there's this from David Schwartz, Ripple CTO, co-creator of the XRP ledger. And he quoted it's in quotes, rather. He said, the government should punish projects that disagree with our narrative. Seems pretty on brand for ETH. And that is pretty much what Vitalik's pushing for in this case. The government should punish projects that disagree with our narrative. Because again, their narrative is that Ethereum, of course, not Chinese controlled. Ripple said something different, and they're one developer building on top of the XRP ledger. And so Vitalik doesn't like that, and he says, the government should punish projects that disagree with our narrative. David Schwartz said, seems pretty on brand for ETH again. So I find that, not only completely on point, but kind of funny, right? It is on brand for ETH, right? Think about what Joseph Lubin has been saying all these years, claiming that, because Joseph Lubin, of course, being another co-founder of Ethereum, he's praised the SEC. Oh, they're doing a fantastic job. Well, it's because he felt protected. We'll see how protected he really is now that there's different leadership in charge. Maybe he is still, I don't know. But it does seem on brand for the leadership at ETH, doesn't it? And then David Schwartz wrote, also, I do think it's perfectly fair to analogize miners in proof-of-work systems to stockholders in companies. Just as eBay stockholders earn from the residual friction between buyers and sellers that eBay does not remove, so do miners in ETH and Bitcoin. Just as eBay stockholders want to leave as much friction between buyers and sellers as they can because that's their revenue stream, so do miners in ETH and Bitcoin. That's part of why they have higher fees than the XRP ledger. And so I'll just pause and note what he's talking about here is going back to the eBay point that he made here, if you're using eBay, hey, great, fantastic service. I'm sure tons of you listening are users of eBay and you found it very useful. But it is true that they're middlemen and they're charging fees, right? And so that's not good for the seller because, fees for registering your products so that you can sell it. And then the buyer, that's if you're the buyer, your products are going to cost a little bit more because the seller's got to factor in what that is. So that's friction right there. And so in terms of alignment here, that's why he's saying if you compare that to the XRP ledger, well, basically there is no comparison, right? And then David Schwartz says, do you think this debate should be settled by the government or the market, Vitalik Buterin? This quotation wasn't pulled from some attempt by Ripple to get the government to regulate ETH, was it? That's a pretty good sum. Yeah, what you said, it wasn't from the government, right? It was just from good old Vitalik Buterin. Is there a difference at this point? And then there was this from Library, also being sued by the SEC, who said, Vitalik says XRP and its users deserve to be wrecked by the government, not for doing something wrong, but because Ethereum was insulted. Disappointing take from a guy who presents himself as intellectually consistent and principled. Vitalik is typically pretty principled, even if he wasn't here. Hopefully it is eating at him that he was an exception no one else has, that he has an exception no one else has due to the corrupt behavior of his allies and the U.S. government. Yeah, well, hopefully I haven't seen any signs that he's, it's eating at him that he's gotten the Ethereum free pass to this point. One can hope, but he's probably just thrilled. Then he's just, going after XRP, which is the most attacked crypto in the world right now. I mean, that's pretty easy to argue at this point. Even if you're setting aside the community and tribalism, the SEC, okay, it's pretty easy to make that point. This is completely ridiculous. Let me know what you think below. I'm just the guy reporting this jibber jabber. I'm not a financial advisor. You should not buy or sell anything because of anything that I say or write. That would be a very, very, very bad idea. Until next time, to the moon, Lambo.